In this video, we're going to take a look at creating a Visio drawing and then publishing it up to SharePoint. And the Visio drawing will be of the new data type, and we'll be able to look at our data on SharePoint within the browser using Silverlight, and the Visio drawing will have a data connection within it. So we'll switch over to our server. And again, I've got everything kind of shrunk down here for the fidelity of the actual video, so I can reduce that. And the first thing we're going to look at is Visio. I've just started Visio, standard Office, just from the start menu. So I'm going to create a new diagram, and I really, you can use any shape you want, but we're just going to go into a standard block diagram down here. It really doesn't matter the kind of shape that we're going to create. I'm just going to call create. And now I'm just going to come in and put some shapes down here. I'm just going to take a box and put that in there, and I'll copy that. I just selected it, and I'm going to go Control C and then Control V twice. So now I've got two boxes, and I'll move them on over. And again, this can be of any type of drawing that you want. It's the data connection you really want to pick up. So that we can distinguish these, I'm going to change the filling. Color, I'm going to go with red, and then I'll go with yellow, and then I'll go with, can you guess, green. Alright, so I've got three boxes up in here, and now I'm going to save this drawing. I'm going to save it to the desktop just so in case anything goes awry on me. So I'll say save as. And she's going to pop up again, and again I'm going to save it onto my desktop, and I'm just going to call this data connected 1. And the drawing down here, you want to save it as type. Here it really doesn't much matter, but you really want to save it into the new web drawing type, and we'll go data connected 1 as a web drawing. That way I can see that I can publish up to SharePoint, and I'll save. Now we're going to connect it into a SharePoint list, and for that to happen I have to actually have a list. So we're going to go over to SharePoint. We're going to create one just for this purpose. So I'm in my Mathena Group BI site, and I'm going to go into lists, and I'm going to call create, and we just want a custom list in there, and I'm going to name it data connected. Doesn't much matter, and I'll call create. And now I'm going to modify the list slightly. Now that we have the list, we're going to change the settings, very minor. I'm just going to go into list settings. And as I pull down here, I'm going to add an existing site column. You see the columns I have up here are title created by modified. And I'm going to add from an existing site column. And when I call that on in, what I want to add is a status. Let me just pull down, find that. Okay, and here's status. I'll just call add. And we've got that. Now I'm going to call OK to add that column into the list. So now you see I have title and status is of type choice. I'm going to click on status so I can change out my choices. And name status, which is fine with me, and choice menu, which I like. And I'm going to take these defaults and I'm going to just select them all and delete them. And I'm going to change this to in stock, and I'm going to change it to back order and not available, or not available. Sounds fine. I just grabbing values in here really doesn't much matter. So I'm going to use a drop down also, and I allow this fill in choices where they could type something in which I don't like, so I'm going to say no, and we'll say OK. Alright, and now our list is up and functional. We've got in here the list, and let's go in and take a look at it. Data connected, and now we are in the data connected list. Now I'm going to call add new item, and I'm going to call it red widget, and I'm going to say that's in stock. And I'm going to add a new item, and I'm going to call it yellow widget. And we're going to say that's on back order. And we're going to add another one, let's see, red, yellow, green. And we're going to say green is not available. Okay, so now we've got our list in here, red, yellow, and green. Now let's switch back over and we're going to connect the Visio drawing, these into the shapes into the list that we just created. So we're going to go to the Data tab. Let me see if I can expand this out for y'all some. All right, and we've expanded this on out, so now I'm going to go to the Data tab, and I'm going to go Link Data to Shapes. And you see here's my options up here. By far the most popular is Excel Workbook, and then we can drop on down with the other stuff. But we're going to tie it into a SharePoint list that we just created. I'm going to go Next. Here you'd enter the URL of your site, and we're coming in off Mathino Group's member server. Next, and you pick the list that you want to. Notice you can link to a default view, or if you have other views, there's in the list you can link to that view also, which is a nice little selection there. Now there's my data connected, and I'll say Next, and we'll call Finish. And up pops, let me see if I can resize this a little. Oops, there we are. Let's see, resize this a little. Bear with me. Let me resize this, try to get this so I can show it to you a little better. Move that down some. There we go. Now here's Red Widget. I'm simply going to grab this. What you're going to see over in here is a link. I'm simply going to grab this and take it up in Dropper. And you notice the automatic data connection up in here, the automatic display. Let's move yellow down a little so that we can see this a little cleaner. I'm going to just move yellow under it. And I'll do the same thing with green. And now I'll take the yellow widget and connect it, and the green widget and connect it, and now we've got the data connection. I'm going to save it. I meant to save it as a different name, but we didn't. That's okay. We hope. Now let's go in and data connected. We're going to load that into SharePoint. Again, normally what we would do is down here save and send, and when you're running on a client, which you will be, you're going to use this save to SharePoint and go in and save it that way. But we're running here on a server, and we have the same issues we've had before. Even though we've got the desktop experience enabled, there's some problems within the save and send and the desktop experience. But that's really neither here nor there. So let's that's the way you would normally do it. Let's go home, but let's switch over to SharePoint and upload it. Now I'm over here in SharePoint again. We're going to go into the libraries, and we're going to use the document library that we used before. And I'm just going to browse. So I'm going to say add document, and I'll call browse. And now there's data connected, and we'll say OK. Okay, and now I've got data connected up here, and when I click on it, there is my data connection. You notice this refresh is enabled, so I can enable refreshing either for this session as the user logs into that site, or always. So I can call that in here and enable it. Then you could go back over to the list, change the value, and show it up again, and she would refresh in the list. Now, note that works wonderful on the client, but again, when we're on the server, we've got some issues here with the desktop experience, which tends to give us some problems down here. This, by the way, is displayed in Silverlight, right? So there's, we see my in stock, back order. Now you could come through and say, well, gee, I'm seeing really the same information that I see in a list, but if I come in here and I work a little bit with JavaScript and do a little bit of programming, I can dynamically change colors and statuses and all, and make this much more functional. But that requires some basic coding for that to work. So there's your data connected list. Again, we could have gone in and created a web page, a new web page, and added a Visio web access part in here and just browsed in. So then we would make this display part of a dashboard, which is very easy. And so much for a data connected part.